Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. Poland's president demands Germany to pay war reparations for the losses Poland sustained during World War II. These realistic demands, what can they lead to? And is this simply another episode of Karol Nawrocki's struggle with the country's Prime Minister, Donald Tusk? To talk about it, we're joined by Rafał Pankowski, co-founder of the Never Again Association and political science professor at Collegium Civitas University in Warsaw. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What is Karol Nawrocki's goal when he calls for war reparations from Germany?
Well, of course, Karol Nawrocki comes from a rather specific political tradition, and also as a trained historian, he comes from a certain tradition that can be described, broadly speaking, as nationalist. So I don't think we should be surprised by this statement. This is more or less the kind of platform on which he campaigned and he was elected. Whether or not this statement is meant for international or domestic consumption is a legitimate question, of course. But I think this issue has several dimensions and several levels, and of course on the moral level, the historical level, of course the German Nazi occupation of Poland was very cruel, and it has taken many generations for Poland to recover. There is also a legal dimension which is more problematic, and it has to do with the discussion, to what extent Poland today is a successor state to the Polish People's Republic that actually rejected the reparations in the 50s, and so on. So there is a long list of issues here.
So maybe it is a wise tactics from President Nawrocki to remind the Germans that they have not compensated Poland for its war losses.
Well, I think one of the problems I can see here is the sort of philosophical problem of putting a monetary value on the loss of human lives and the destruction caused by World War II. That's not easy, and I think that's always bound to be problematic. But there is no question that Poland, as a country, as a nation, suffered enormously during World War II, but whether or not there is,
I'm still thinking about the logic of what you just said. So, if someone gets killed, he should, his family should not be compensated for this loss because you can't really value a human life.
Well, it's complicated also because many years passed, and then again there is a question, and I think there are different opinions. All of them are actually quite legitimate. Whether or not today's Germans today are to be perceived as successors of Hitler's Third Reich. In a sense, yes, Germany today is a successor of Germany in the 1940s. But of course, at the same time, it's a very different country. And of course, on many occasions, Germany and German society acknowledged their responsibility for the Nazi crimes. So this is not the first time we are having this debate. And what is the best way to compensate for the crimes and for the destruction caused by World War II and the Nazi German occupation of Poland? There's a long history to this debate, and I don't expect it to be over anytime soon.
Well, maybe you're mistaken, because it seems quite possible to me that come tomorrow, we will all forget about this historical debate over war reparations from Germany, because it happens so every single time we have this anniversary. We're talking about war reparations, and then the topic is dropped. Do you think it will happen the same way?
Well, of course, for the last 10 years or so, we have had, the public discussion around the reparations, not only around the anniversary, but under Law and Justice government. We heard about it often, but not much happened on this issue, which again might suggest this is more of a domestic political topic rather than a real topic for the international relations level between Poland and Germany, somewhat.
Therefore, my following question: how is Germany reacting to the Polish president's narrative?
Well, apparently, Germany is actually very clear on its attitude and says that the issue is more or less solved a long time ago. But there is a lot of pressure, I think, on both sides to deal with this issue one way or another. Because in some ways, I think it really poisons the otherwise good relationship between Poland and Germany. So decades after World War II, I think the whole process of reconciliation has actually been very successful, also on the level of what we can call, grassroots people's diplomacy, which basically means relations between ordinary people on both sides of the border. Also, the economic relationship is actually very important, I think, for both countries. So I think this thorny issue of reparations sort of remains as an issue that poisons otherwise a very positive relationship between those two countries.
So what to do about it?
Well, I don't think anybody has a perfect solution, to be honest, and certainly I'm not claiming I have a solution. But I think it's also important to note the current context. We have the war in Ukraine. We have many war refugees from Ukraine in Poland. We have this very real sense of tension and threat to peace in Europe. And I think on this anniversary, the 1st of September, anniversary of the outbreak of World War II, we really need to reflect on the value of peace and the meaning of war and peace, and what it means historically, not just for Poland and Germany, but for Europe as a whole, and actually for the world today. So I think all those historical issues are important, but maybe really we need to draw a certain more universal lesson from it, rather than only talk about national interests of our two countries with all this difficult history.
As a political scientist, you know perfectly well that you can build your political agenda on some sort of resentment to your neighbor. Now, it's not the first time, as you have mentioned before, that the Polish president or politician is talking about war reparations. Why haven't they been successful so far?
Well, once again, there are also legal issues around the question of legal succession. Both states have changed the legal form over the last years and decades. But I also think this kind of topic is politically convenient for certain elements of the political spectrum. In the case of Poland, that is especially Law and Justice, the ruling party until recently. It is definitely less convenient for other actors of the political spectrum that are maybe more future oriented rather than past oriented. And it's a choice. I don't think there is a sort of perfect solution to this dilemma. And I think different politicians, different leaders on both sides of the border need to deal with this dilemma, whether or not we should keep fighting the past battles, or whether we should be allies with a view to the future and the current threats.
Well, as President Nawrocki said, in order to build good relations with Germany, Germany has to pay for Poland's war losses. But what happened to this initiative? There were talks a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, about building a broad European coalition to put more pressure on Germany to pay for war reparations, like Poland was trying to do something with Greece, right?
Well, exactly. Greece is definitely one European country that in some ways has a position that is not so different from Poland's position on this issue. Actually, looking beyond Europe and beyond World War II, I actually remember a very interesting fact when there was a conference organized by people close to Law and Justice, and among the guests, they had a delegation from Namibia.
Oh, yeah.
That is a country that is also claiming reparations from Germany for the genocide that happened even before World War I in Southwest Africa. And I thought that was an interesting fact, which actually I thought was quite positive. I could see a certain contrast with some of the xenophobic and even racist rhetoric of some right-wing politicians in Poland vis-à-vis black Africans. But to have this more international or even more global debate on reparations, I think it's actually a good idea because, well, Poland suffered a lot, definitely. It's not the only country that suffered a lot during World War II and across history. And I think, there are many claims and many legitimate claims from many nations against other nations. Overall, it's a rather messy picture. And how to deal with all those claims and counterclaims, I think it's a major challenge, and not only for Poland vis-à-vis Germany.
And lastly, does Poland have a coherent historical policy, or can the president or prime minister say whatever they want? And well, should Poland have one vision of its history and what to do with it?
Well, of course, one vision of history is impossible. But
an official vision of history, the thing you find in your textbooks,
Yes. Well, of course, it's probably not just an accident that both the president and prime minister of Poland are educated as historians. History is an important subject in Poland and in Polish politics. It has always been, because it informs identity. And I think the sort of differing visions of history also reflect different visions of Polish identity and probably Poland's future. So I expect history to play an important role, an important part in the discourse of Polish politics for the years to come, whether it is a more inclusive vision of national identity or whether it is a more narrow vision related to ethnic nationalism. We shall see.
Rafał Pankowski, co-founder of the Never Again Association and Political Science Professor at Collegium Civitas University in Warsaw, was our guest this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more interviews and news here on TVP World.